Hello everyone. I just wanted to make a quick video about Hillary Clinton. This is in the wake of her recent collapse at the World Trade Center Memorial. Frankly, I'm thinking her chances of being elected at this point are very slim. But frankly, I think it's a shame if the reason she's not elected is due to health problems instead of Americans understanding who she is and how our government actually works. Because it's about time to stop being naive. So Hillary Clinton, she is basically got into the inner circle of the government, the real government, not the one that we elect. When she and her husband Bill, her husband Bill was the governor of Arkansas. And this was during the 80s when there was something going on called the Contra War in Nicaragua. Basically, there are a few rich families that own most of Nicaragua and a lot of poor people who didn't own land, and this caused friction, and which eventually turned into a civil war where there was an uprising by mostly poor landless peasants, some of whom had a Marxist, Leninist, communist ideology. Now the CIA has found that it's very profitable to side with the rich people around the world against the poor when there are popular uprisings, and a lot of this was cloaked in the language of the Cold War. But it's no surprise it pays to be on the side of the rich. So the CIA was backing the rich families, trying to put down the Civil War, and the main method that the wealthy were using to try to suppress the left-leaning uprising was mercenary death squads. So obviously not a nice tactic. And news of this got out to the general public through the media. So the tactics were that the Contras, which are these right-wing death squads, mercenary death squads, were using were so atrocious, like massacres of villages, things like that, that Congress, perhaps after hearing rumors of U.S. involvement of the CIA backing these rebels, passed a law saying that the rebels, the Contras, shall receive no U.S. government money. So this put the CIA in a bind because they were backing the rebels, and they have never seen themselves as an organization as bound by the laws of God or man. The CIA sees themselves above Congress, the president, and the law, the Constitution, etc. So they weren't about to just sit back and let Congress tell them which side of a civil war they could back. But they had a problem in that they could no longer use government money to do that. So they had to come up with a plan. Their plan was that they told the Contras, the rich families that were backing the Contras, who obviously had a lot of land. They told them, because they owned most of the country, they had lots of farms, they're plantation owners basically. They told them, we're going to give you the go-ahead to start planting your land with coca plants. And if you can take those coca plants, you can process them into cocaine. And then we, the CIA, we have a fleet of planes, we have control over most of the government. And we will help you import the cocaine into the United States and hook you up with some large-scale distributors who will then sell it. And then you can take the money that you're earning from the cocaine and use it to buy guns and pay your salaries of your mercenaries. And we will then help you take that money and give it, we'll find you an arms supplier. They ended up going to the Iranian government, somewhat ironically, and using the cocaine money that they got from selling cocaine within the United States to buy a bunch of guns from Iran. So there was one thing that they needed to facilitate to make this whole plan work, and that was how to get the cocaine into the United States. So CIA could take care of the border. They can and have a long history of telling the DEA to look the other way. They can tell customs that obviously they're, super secret, on some super secret James Bond mission to stop Dr. No or whatever, and people generally buy that. So the CIA was able to get it across the border, no problem. The problem was they needed a state governor, because the other force, aside from the federal government, is the state government. And the state police, if they found, huge shipments of cocaine, they could perhaps trace it back to it coming from a certain airport or wherever the distribution channel is and blow the thing wide open. So they needed a corrupt governor who would tell his police to look the other way. That governor was Bill Clinton. If you look at how the CIA recruits people, or agents and assets, they look for someone, one technique is to look for someone who's corrupt, who will just basically do anything for money, because that's someone you can bribe, but then their loyalty could change if someone else pays them more. So you also want someone who is involved in criminal activities or has something shameful to hide. So for example, a politician who has lots of mistresses, or perhaps a politician who has a drug habit. So they found all three with Bill Clinton. He was running around with lots of women, had a taste for cocaine, and he was a power-hungry person who would do whatever for money and power. So they made an arrangement with him that they would fly the cocaine in through Mena, Arkansas, and that became one of the main import hubs for the Contra cocaine. This is why there was a crack epidemic in the 1980s. That's why you didn't hear about crack cocaine in the 70s, is because there wasn't government-sponsored mass importation of the drug. But there was in the 80s. So Bill Clinton agreed to play this role as the governor who would look the other way, and in return, the CIA found that they had a partner in him, someone they could trust who would go along with their plans, and that and so they in turn helped sponsor his political career, and that's how he got the kind of tapped on the shoulder and told he should run for president, and got the backing of enough people to make that happen. So that's when Bill and Hillary got their big welcome into the inner government. And if you look at a lot of the recent candidates, you can look at Mitt Romney, where he got some of his seed money from some of these rich families who had to launder their cocaine money to start Bain Capital. It's a little more shaky, but you can look at Marco Rubio with his ties to people who are in the cocaine importing business. And then of course there's the Bush family, Bush, the former head of the CIA. And like I said, one of the things that's important for these drug importation operations is to keep the border secure. So they have to, or they have to have a border crossing. They have to have some way to bring the stuff in. So flying it into Mena, Arkansas, that's not the best. What's better is if you control a state that's on the border, such as Texas is an ideal one. It's got a long border with Mexico. And another one that's ideal is Florida, if you're trying to get anything across the Caribbean or from South America. So if you look at the Bushes, where were the two Bush brothers governors of Texas and Florida? So at any rate, I think it's time for Americans to wake up. And this all sounds extremely hard to believe for most people. But at the same time, if you talk to those same people and you tell them, did you know that in the Soviet Union, the KGB ran everything from behind the scenes? And did you know that Vladimir Putin used to be in the KGB, and it was his KGB connections that tapped him on the shoulder and told him he should be president and helped him win? They'd say, well, yeah, and the sky's blue, like, you're not telling me anything new. And if you went to most Americans and you said, did you know that in Mexico there are powerful drug cartels, and they they smuggle lots of drugs, and they have lots of money, and they buy politicians, and they try to help politicians win who are in their pocket, and say, yeah, well, you know, and the Pope's Catholic, and what else is new? Why are you wasting my time? But if you try to tell, you know, think anything vaguely similar about the United States, people have an incredible mental block. So don't take what I'm saying at face value, but don't take what you've been told to believe your whole life about how the system works either. Just look up Mena, Arkansas. You can look up Daniel Hopsicker, I'd recommend. You can look up Gary Webb. There's been a recent movie about it. You can start with watching the movie about him. Called Dark Alliance is the name of his book. You can look up people like, well, that's enough to get you started. But yeah, that's who she is, and that's why it would be a miracle if she doesn't win the presidency, because there are a lot of very crooked people who want crooked Hillary to win, and it's best to not lose sight of that and get caught up in the kind of the day-to-day horse race. So thank you for watching.